Thanks for watching the Future Tech Careers YouTube channel. The video you're about to watch is a recording of our event on March 12, 2025, titled Tech Job Applications 101, a panel discussion with Corewell Health. If you stick around until the end of the video, two QR codes will pop up on the screen, an interest form and an event attendance form. The interest form provides you with a space to leave us your contact information so we can follow up with you about upcoming updates and events. The event attendance form provides you a space to leave feedback about this video. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like. Your feedback helps us plan events in the future that best align with our students' interests. Thanks and enjoy the video.
All right, I think we are ready then.
Okay, well, to all of our Corewell Health panel members and moderators, thank you so much for coming. And to all of our students who are joining us in person and on Zoom, thank you for coming. This is a event in Future Tech Careers Career Conversation series. This is a series where we bring in professionals from the tech industry who work in tech roles and non-tech roles to talk a little bit more about their experience in their corner of tech. So today we have joining us multiple people from Corewell Health to talk a little bit more about what happens to your job application in the tech industry after you click submit. So I will pass it over to Sharon Vriend-Robinette to introduce herself and our panel members.
Great, thanks so much, Linus. My name is Sharon Vriend-Robinette, and I work at Corewell Health. I've been there for 6 years, and I run the Career Pathways program, which is right now a college internship program, outreach K through 12, and at different times an apprenticeship program there, all into digital services, our tech area. And now I'm going to ask everyone else the same question, so I should answer it for myself as well. So why do I like working at Corewell Health? And for me, the reason I like working at Corewell Health is because it is I like my job. I like working with people and helping them navigate the system. But I also really appreciate working for an organization that I support the mission and also has such great impact, positive impact on the region. So that's very important to me. Let's go through the next 3 people in alphabetical order, and it looks like your first and last names are all alphabetized perfectly. So let's go Heather, Jenny, and Kyle in that order. And can you please tell us your name, area of responsibility, your years with the system, and the answer to the question, why do you like working for Corewell Health?
Okay, so it sounds like I'm first. My name is Heather Hollerbach. I am one of the supervisors for our level 1 service desk here at Corewell Health, which basically just means we're an internal service desk for team members. We don't take calls from patients or from outside the organization. I have been with the organization, it will be 11 years in July, but a total of 18, 19 years with the organization. I worked for about 7.5 years, left for a few years and came back, but I've been back now for 10.5 years. The last 10.5 years have all been within our department that is currently known as Digital Services. It's had a few name changes over the years. And I think the important piece for me to answer the question about why do I like working for Corewell Health is to also mention that I am a Legacy Lakeland team member. So for those of you who are not familiar with all of the changes that our organization has gone through over the last several years. I worked for Lakeland Health here in Berrien County, so down in the southwest corner of the state of Michigan, right on the lake. And we integrated with Spectrum Health about 5 years ago, and we became Spectrum Health Lakeland. And then about 3 years ago, we started our integration journey with Legacy Beaumont, to form what is now known as Corewell Health. And so the reason I said all of that is because to answer the question of why do I like working for Corewell Health, it's always been about the community for me. Coming from a small community and a small healthcare organization, the connection to purpose with our organization has always been what's been at the forefront for me. Because we are the only health system here in Berrien County So our patients are our families, our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers. We know everybody. And so even though I'm not directly involved in patient care, being part of digital services and as a supervisor on the service desk, what we do every day directly impacts patient care for our organization and our ability to take good care of our callers, to meet their needs and to get them back to doing what they do best, which is take care of our patients, is what drives me and what keeps me going on those tough days.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Jenny.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenny Rademacher. Kind of like Heather, I've been here 3 years, but was previously employed by, at the time it's called Spectrum Health, for about 5 years. So total about 8 years. I also worked at Priority Health, which is part of Corewell Health, in their service desk area and their PASS team area, which that's just kind of some of my history. Why do I like working for Corewell Health? I knew Heather was probably going to say almost the same thing as me. I was hoping I'd get to go first, but she beat me. The connection to purpose. So I live on the west side of Michigan, Lake Shore area, but it's always been a known thing over in my family, at least, that if you have a medical problem or anything, you're going to want to go to Corewell. So even though we might be closer to other facilities, it's always go to Corewell. So I've had a lot of family members in the hospital system with some serious illnesses. And just that connection is the purpose of why I work for Corewell. So.
Thanks so much. Kyle.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Schultz, and I'm also one of the supervisors on the Corewell Health Level 1 service desk. I've been with Corewell for 2 years. However, I've been in the information technology service delivery realm, departments, industry for about 15 years now. And then to answer the question, I'm going to piggyback off everyone. And really, it is that sense of community that Corewell brings. I've worked for a lot of different organizations, and I can tell you, you go through orientation, they tell you about your mission, vision, core values. You never hear about it again. But at Corewell, things are much different. And everything we do, every project, every initiative, from the big ones to the small ones, those values are instilled in everything we do, and it's recognized on a daily basis. And I just couldn't be more, ecstatic to work for this organization.
Thanks so much. I'll let Heather field this, and I think it's true for all your positions, but or all your areas, but correct me if I'm wrong. What are the titles of the entry-level jobs in your area?
So for the service desk, all of our positions are considered a customer support technician. Unless I said that wrong, but I think I'm trying to see if Jenny and Kyle are like confirming what I just said. They're all customer support technicians, but we do have 3 different levels. We have the associate, the intermediate, and the senior tech role. But typically we hire into the desk at the associate level and then promote folks to an intermediate or a senior position after they've finished training and have gotten it figured out and things like that. There's a path to promotion to intermediate and senior tech, but they're all called customer support technicians.
Okay, and that's true for all of your areas, right?
For the level 1 service desk, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Just the 3 of you represented here.
Correct.
So for all of what Heather just said is important to note for all of our positions, though, in digital services, is that we're a little tricky, is that the entry-level positions say, give a position name, so developer or technician, something like that, and then comma associate. If it doesn't have a modifier, if it just says developer or customer support technician, that's actually the intermediate role. And so that's a little complicated. So just know when you're applying for positions, if you don't have much work experience, the word associate should show up in a position for you if you're going to go through the effort of applying. mean, check out the job, and we'll get to this in a minute, but that's an important piece just to make sure that you know what the education requirements are and the work requirements are. But the entry-level positions all have the title, comma, associate associated with it. Then let's go to Heather. Let's go to Jenny on this one. So after submitting a job application, what happens? Walk us through the process of how resumes are screened and how it's decided whether or not someone gets an interview.
So usually what happens is it goes to a recruiter that works especially with whatever area you're applying for. So for us, we have a special recruiter for our area. That recruiter will look over those applicants and will then contact them. Usually they'll do like a screening phone interview with that person. And if it is a good fit or they believe it's a good fit for our area, we usually kind of give them like a heads up of what we're looking for so they know. They will send them over to us. And then Kyle, Heather, and I usually work together to look into those resumes, take what our recruiter has said, like how the phone call went in that interview. And then from there, we usually set up an interview if that is something that we want to pursue with that person. Interviews are usually anywhere from half an hour to an hour. It just kind of depends on how much we talk or how much that candidate talks. And then we discuss after everyone's interviewed who we think is the best fit for our team.
Okay, Kyle and Heather, did you have anything to add?
Well, I think Jenny did a good job of explaining it.
All right, so then this can be open for all of you. In what scenarios can someone get an interview even if they don't meet the educational requirements in the posting?
I guess I can take that one since Jenny and Heather already went. So big thing for me is I look for coachability, right? When you look at the resume, a lot of people put their mission statement or what they're about. And if that mission statement captivates me in a way to where I think you're a coachable individual, you're motivated, you're accountable for your actions, that goes a long way, right? The technical aspect of this position, especially at the entry level, it's teachable, right? But what we can't teach are those intangibles, the desire to customer service, right? Is customer service truly a passion of yours? And are you willing to support this community and give it what it gives back to us? So that's something that I look for. Again, skill sets, education, right? Does your education, is it tailored towards the specific position that you're applying for? Do you have any familiarity with the skill sets, whether it be from education or your personal life? And how did you tie those skill sets that the job requirement or the job application states that are necessary into your application?
Right. And so what Kyle just said, at least in my experience and what I've coached students on, is that if you look at the posting and it says required pieces, those really are required. That it's unlikely that Kyle and Jenny and Heather are going to actually get your resume unless you have those requirements taken, like you have those requirements. If it says preferred, that doesn't really matter. I mean, then you might get the nod if you have those preferred qualifications that someone else doesn't. But Kyle and Jenny and Heather will get your resumes even if you don't have those preferred pieces. So if something says that, and there are very few positions in digital services that say you need a BA, most don't for the entry level. If it says BA though, it's going to be, they will not forward your resume if you don't have one, or the equivalent of it, which would be probably about 4 to 6 years in the industry in terms of experience. But that requirement, if you meet those requirements, then we can go to that next question. And Kyle's, well, no, we're going to the mistakes. I'm going to mistakes first, and then we'll go to the hooks. But then you can go to sort of what is good about that resume or what could be improved. So with that, tell us a story, each of you. We can start with Heather and then go right down the list of what are common mistakes people make on their resumes that often lead to them getting screened out for an entry-level role.
Whether it's screened out, I don't know if I can speak to screened out by the recruiter because they're the filter before they get to us. But if they make it through the recruiter to us, some of the things that might make me decide not to pursue an interview with somebody would be things like the resume has not been updated recently, there's definitely some either dates that are off, or it's clear that this resume wasn't updated for this specific position, or it's been uploaded as a PDF or a Word document with a title that makes it sound like it's been used for other positions that so things like that. Like, it's really important to me that the resumes that we're getting, that whoever is applying has like at least taken a few minutes to review it, to update it, to make sure it's accurate. So those are maybe some picky things, but spell check, typos or really funky like formatting in a resume. It makes me go, ooh, did they take the time? Did they really, feel like it was worth their time to submit a professional looking resume to me? Those I think those are just details that kind of, right or wrong, maybe tell me what kind of a person I might be, interviewing when they come in. Are you detail oriented? Do you catch the little details? Do you, are you putting value, into this process? I would also say, like, if I get a resume that's like 12 pages long, I go, oh my gosh, like what's the most important stuff, like get to the meat and potatoes in a relatively quick and succinct sort of way that shows me you're qualified in as few words as possible, right? I always worry when somebody feels like they need 12 pages to tell me about their experience for this job. I think, ooh, why do we need so many words to tell me you're qualified and capable for this job? So those are just some of the personal things for me, that may or may not be things that, are that jump out to Kyle or Jenny.
No, that's great though. Thank you. Jenny, what do you think? Tell us the story of what are the common mistakes people make on their resumes that often lead to them not getting an interview for you?
I think something that I mean, a lot of what Heather said, but also if it looks like maybe, and this might not be the right appropriate word to use, but job hop. So if they've only worked somewhere for 3 months and then they start a new job and then they start another job 3 months after that, that kind of thing is kind of sends a red flag. Why are you having so many different positions in such a short period of time? Unless it's something where, it's a contract job or something like that. And, that's understandable. But so that's a red flag for me. Another thing is if you're going to put your photo on your resume, make sure it's a professional photo. When you get ones that have a photo that, looks like they might be hanging out with their friends kind of thing, it just doesn't come across as professional to me. So I think that's important. You have to really think of what you look like when you're sending your resume to somebody. So does it look professional, whether it be the photo or the way it's formatted? Font matters. It seems little, but I think font is a huge one too. Is it easy to read, or am I going to have to, blow up the letters or change the font, that kind of thing? So those are just a few on top of what Heather had mentioned. All of what she said too, I agree with. So.
Okay. Kyle, what are your pet peeves on resumes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I drew the short straw. You have to go after Heather and Jenny. But no, again, a lot of what they said is very accurate. For me, the biggest thing is grammatical corrections. Again, you're applying for a position, you're a professional, and we would expect someone to take the time to make sure that that is presentable. Similar to what Heather said, short, sweet, to the point. Cover the bases, hit on the topics. Again, tailor your resume to that job position. Highlight the skill sets that are associated with what you're applying for. those are the biggest things for me. Jenny said font, right? I've seen pink font, green font, yellow font, all crazy cursive. I can't read it. I can't read it. I'm not going to read it. So as long as it's, again, professional, clean, formatted nicely so that we can get in there and highlight yourself, right? Highlight yourself, be confident in the skill sets that you have and how they associate with the position you're applying for. And then most likely, you're going to at least get a conversation. Like Jenny said, another thing that I look for is the duration of your work experience. And there's 100 different reasons why.
Recording in progress.
Oh, so I got a little feedback there. There's 100 different reasons why you could have those stints where it's 3 months, a year, things of that nature. I do look for at least a year in a position, but however, it doesn't mean that it's not explainable. So if that can be answered within the resume, that's always nice. But however, if you have those skill sets and it does lead to an interview, if those things are noticeable, for me, I'm going to ask those questions. And again, it's something that if it's explainable and it makes sense, not a big deal, but definitely raise that flag, like Jenny says, so that we can ask those questions.
So how would you explain that? What are good reasons? Or how would you like to hear an explanation on that? For anyone, for Jenny and you, but start with Kyle, because otherwise
Jenny,
it'll be sad.
For me, I've seen contingency in our field of work. There's a lot of contingent workers or contract workers that work temporary positions specifically for projects. We do it at Corewell all the time where we have big projects and we hire in contingent workers to come in and help us with those initiatives. So it might only be 2 months, 3 months. Things of that nature. You get personal life events, things of that nature that happen, to where you do have a hiatus in employment or experience. So again, those are just a couple things that I can think of. I'll leave the table open for Jenny and Heather, but again, as long as they're explainable and it makes sense, it's okay.
Jenny, did you have anything to add?
I think another one is if it's been like a promotion, for instance. So if they were in a position for only 3 months and were promoted within that org, I think that's definitely explainable. That's a positive reason for a change. So that's one that you could, easily explainable. I'm trying to think of other ones.
How would you do
now I
it
know
on a
how Kyle
resume?
feels.
Do you have any good hints on how one could do that on a resume to make it explainable so that you can, be a chosen one for an interview? Or
Yeah,
do you
so
look at a letter? I don't know if you look at letters.
So I think from experience, so when I worked at Priority Health, for instance, it was just a year that I had been at at that time it's called a help desk, but it's basically same thing, same kind of area that we oversee now. But I had put in there promoted too. So when I put the dates, I made sure that it said that it was a promotion. So that way it showed, so they weren't like, why'd she move jobs again? That kind of thing. If you move or something out of state, I think that's a good thing to note on there as well. Cover letters are good to have that information. And if you can add that in, like was recently promoted or recently moved due to moving, I had, that kind of thing. Or if it's like a contract job, put in there parentheses, contract. Because we look at that and we have seen it too. And it is kind of normal for the IT world to be in, a contracted position at some point. So I think noting it as best as you can is probably your best bet. And just doing it in that kind of basic way, parentheses by the dates, kind of a short explanation works well, or in the cover letter. But I don't know if Heather or Kyle have anything to add to that.
I'd say the parentheses, like Jenny said, contract work, things of that nature. That way, it's easy for us to see the promotions, right? It's very easy for us to see if you're promoted within the same organization or title changes. If for example, you went from a technician to a senior technician or a supervisor, something along those lines. It's easy for us to pick up on that, especially when it's within the same organization.
Mm-hmm. Heather, did you have anything to add?
All of what Kyle and Jenny just said, with the only other statement being, I love me a good cover letter. We don't get a lot of them. with our resumes that come into the service desk positions. But man, I love it when I do. It's a little bit. I think it always feels a little bit more personable, especially if someone has taken the time to tailor it to the particular position that they're applying for. And I enjoy a good cover letter with a resume when we have open positions.
Okay, thank you. All right. Kyle, we're going to let you go first here. So, in addition to meeting the job qualifications, what do you look for in a candidate, both on paper and in an interview? You've talked about some of it, but do you have anything to add?
Yeah, my biggest thing is, again, coachability, the ability to express humility, which is not always an easy thing. But what I found in this industry is that there's a lot to know. And I don't think I've met anyone who knows it all yet. So, approaching situations and being able to answer situations with positivity, right? Positivity and, understand that there are hurdles that are going to be in your way, but it's about how do we get over those hurdles or how do we remove those hurdles versus focusing on the hurdles being in our way. I think that's the biggest thing. The technology piece, we can teach you. But having that genuine desire to want to help people and service your community and make a difference and be better than what you were yesterday, that's what I look for. Because when you have those things, it's easy for us to teach you. It's easy us to guide you. Jenny, Heather, and I were in a position of leadership, right? And our job is, we want you to be successful. We want you to achieve your goals, and we want to help you point you in that direction. But we know we're not going to be able to do that for you, right? So we look for people who are going to take that initiative. They're going to be accountable for their action. They're going to do the little things right? Be on time. I'm going to follow all our policies and procedures. I'm going to ask questions when I don't know the answer, when I'm not sure, versus keeping it under the table or just winging it. We're here to support you, right? So I look for people who, have that initiative and not afraid to ask questions, and generally just want to, like I said, be successful.
Awesome. All right, Jenny, we'll go to you next. So in addition to meeting the job qualifications, what do you look for in a candidate, both in person and on paper?
Positivity is a huge one. Sense of humor, I also look for. Professional sense of humor, obviously. But I do like to be able to have interviews that I enjoy, and it seems like the person is enjoying as well. They're not just acting like a robot, kind of answering the questions. I like to get to know the personality. Another thing is knowing that they researched the position, so they know what it's really about. We'll have people that don't really know Corewell, they've said Cornwell, they've said, different things like that. And that to me is kind of a red flag. Like, how much research are you doing? Are you just applying to a bunch of jobs hoping that something comes through? So really knowing that they care about it. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of in this job. For the techs, you get a lot of different kind of calls, a lot of different personalities that come in. Some can be stressful from doctors and that kind of thing. So we really need somebody that is understanding of those kind of situations and can kind of keep a cool head when it might get kind of stressful. So it's really just trying to get to know the personality, and for the person to be able to show their personality in those interviews is really important to me, because it definitely has to be a good fit. Kind of like Kyle said, we can coach that technical side and teach that, but the personality and being able to pivot when needed for certain calls and certain situations, that's part of the person, I think. So that's what's most important is getting to know the personality.
Okay, thank you. And Heather, how about you? What do you look for in a candidate?
I mean, I pretty much, everything that Kyle and Jenny just said. I think we're pretty much, on a similar page there. But in all honesty, for me, as a fairly non-technical person, I never would have imagined I'd be in digital services for 10 and a half years. I do not consider myself a technical person. And I have, 17 customer support techs that report to me, and they lovingly refer to me as, an end user, because I'm always like, okay, so I have a question and talk to me like I'm an end user. no, I'm not going to call the service desk. You're going to answer this for me through Teams, but remember, I'm an end user. So when I am interviewing people, it is very much about the person, like who you are as a person. Um, are your customer service, whether you have actual experience in a customer service position or you have a good understanding of what that means? Do you have a connection to the purpose of our organization? Are you able to articulate that in a way that like tugs at my heart during the interview? Like I want to get that personal side of you. Yes, I think so many times when people come into an interview in digital services, and don't take this as like if you're interviewing for like an architect or an engineer or an analyst role, this is probably really bad advice. But when you're interviewing for a service desk position, and if I'm across the screen from you in an interview, I'm looking for that ability to connect with the personal side of you, because yes, it's great if you know the technical pieces and you know how to do all these things and you have this certification and that certification and you can program and build and da 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 da. Great, but our end users, when they call in, they don't care about any of that. Like, can you speak to them in a way that they understand? You might be extremely smart, extremely technical, and be able to troubleshoot every single issue that a customer calls in with. But if you can't speak with the customer in a way that they understand, none of that technical experience does you a bit of good, right? You have to be able to talk with this person in a way that they can understand what you're saying so they can trust what you're saying, but not feel like you're speaking to them like they're a slow 5-year-old. And that's a really hard balance to find over the phone because you don't have the verbal cues. You don't have the body language. When you're taking calls on the service desk, it is strictly, you're talking to this person over the phone. And I'm like, if you've ever had to help your grandma install an app on her phone, or you've ever tried to talk your mom through how to open a Word document on her PC at home, think about that because that's our callers. But then add in the high stakes of this could be a physician who's trying to get logged into Epic because they need to place orders for a patient, and it levels everything up. And so we can teach the technical skills to be successful as a service desk technician, but we can't teach the rest of it. We can make it better. We can coach you to be better on the customer service and the connection to purpose, and we can mentor and try to instill that in you. But history has kind of shown me that it's something people either kind of have intrinsically and we either bring it out in them, or it's just a constant struggle of, yeah, man, I just don't get this. Like, I just want technical stuff all day. Like, I want to, I'm really smart and really technical and I just want technical all day. And that's not typically been a great fit for our team because our customers don't want technical all day. They went to school to be a doctor. They went to school to be a nurse. They went to school to be a respiratory therapist. They don't care how the technical sausage is made. They just want their stuff to work in that moment so they can get back to their patients. And so that's a key skill that I look for. And I've got some great examples of folks that we've hired that, man, it was a struggle for the first 6-12 months, but man, they've been some of the best hires. They just make my heart happy every single day because they get it. And we taught them the technical stuff.
Thank you. Linus, do we have any questions from those who are listening right now?
Okay, yeah, I will just want to double check. Can you all hear me on Zoom?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll open up the floor to questions in person. If you have a question and you're in the room, feel free to raise your hand. And if you're on Zoom, feel free to drop the question in the chat and I can read it out to our panelists. So does anyone have any questions to start off? Yeah. This is the... Oh,
Okay, that's funny. Um, what are your expectations with cover letters in terms of like length and like what you're looking for there? Are you looking for a dissertation, a single sentence, or somewhere in between? Like, what's your expectation there?
Who wants to take this?
Well, because I mentioned the fact that I really like a good cover letter, I definitely am not looking for a dissertation there either. Probably kind of that standard, if you Google how to write a good cover letter, right? And it talks about, that brief introduction, why you're applying for this particular position, what your skills are or your experience, the very specific things that make you feel like you're a good candidate for this position. Just those highlights, right? But that are tailored to the specific position that you've applied for, not just a generic, hey, I just got my degree, or I just finished this certification, or I just finished this program and I need a job. But very much, hey, this is a little titch about me. This is why I'm applying for this position. This is what I think is good about me that makes me a good fit for this position. And then just some sort of hey, hope to hear from you, looking forward to the opportunity to connect, whatever, however those closings are. But just like I said, just kind of that highlight of pull out those main things in a way that makes me go, hey, this person took a couple of minutes to kind of think this through and stand out a little bit above just beyond the here's my resume, here's my resume, here's my resume. And I've sent them out to every job posting I could find because I'm graduating and I need a job sort of situation.
Well, thank you. Here's a question from Erica. She says, I have worked for myself for over a decade now. How should I approach this in professional interviews? Who wants to take that question?
I can take that one. So Erica, you probably have a lot of that experience, right? When you work for yourself, you do it all. You've seen it from the business side and those aspects of it. Something that I work with individuals and tell them, treat what you do as your own personal business and take care of those things. But when it comes to professional interviews, how do your experiences with what you've been doing for that past decade apply to the specific position that you're applying for? Again, like Sharon mentioned, those requirements and those preferences and what the job task details, how tie your experiences to those requirements or those preferences. And if you're able to speak on those things and you're able to speak on those things with confidence, we're going to be able to pick up on those things as any interviewer would. And again, it's not necessarily about can you do that specific job, but are you coachable? Are you going to be able to perform these functionalities and be a reliable member of our team?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
Hi, Sharon. This is John.
Yeah. Hi, John.
Yeah. So we talk a lot with our students about the importance of like networking and doing all those things outside of, the traditional job application. So after this meeting, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you got a thank you note as an email from our students because they were here. Maybe they tracked you down, sent you a thank you note. Maybe they sent you a LinkedIn request. Maybe they meet you in person somehow. Do those things help cut through, maybe make them a little bit more memorable? Or yeah, so that's the kind of the question.
All right. So Kyle, Heather, Jenny, what do you think? Does that help?
So I'll take this one first. Yes, in my opinion, it does. Making those connections is always positive. I would say, not to badger anybody, like continuously sending emails after emails after emails, like, hey, is there an opening now? Or hey, what's going on with it? That kind of thing. But the initial, like, hey, I really appreciate the time you took to speak with me or speak with us. If there's anything that you think in the future that could help me with position further, or, you know, just those kind of things is always good. In person, I mean, is probably the best way, because you really get to know the person. But of course, it's hard in this virtual world that we still kind of live in. But it definitely makes somebody more memorable to get those kind of emails and those kind of interactions.
Any other thoughts from Kyle or Heather?
Yeah, I would say again, it definitely helps. And you know, when it comes to that interview process, everything that we've talked about for the past 45 minutes, that still stays true. I wouldn't say by any means it guarantees anything, but for me, it's going to allow, you know, I want to see that resume, right? You know, Jenny talked about the recruitment process and how everything filters through the, you know, the recruiting process, and only certain candidates come to us. If we have that relationship, or you know, you have that individual who, you know, provides you that reference, it's very easy for us to go to the recruiters and say, hey, can you please pass that interview or that candidate on to me for an interview, or can you at least send me a copy of the resume so I can get my eyes on it? And then everything we just talked about, that whole process starts. But it definitely helps in making sure our eyes see that resume, and gives you a better chance to get to that next step in the process.
Okay, thank you. I also think John in the room there is a great resource, and he sponsors a lot of meetups, and that would be a good place for you to go and meet people as well, because those are structured for you, and you don't need to you need to be brave in those spaces, but you don't need to make all the contacts on your own. And one thing, when I was looking for a job, that was really helpful to me, that someone else told me to do, but was a really good idea, was at the end of every conversation, ask who else should I talk to? And so then you can get their network involved as well, right? And I've even said, oh, would you be willing to introduce me in an email then? Or can I CC you when I introduce myself in that email? So that's helpful. I want to go back to that question in the chat here that Erica added. She added one paragraph there that said she's an adult entertainment performer, and she's concerned that it'll paint her in an unfavorable light, even though she gained many skills from it. How would you approach that, or how would you like to see that approached in a resume to you?
Yeah, and I know I answered the first part of that question, and I would answer it the same way. Again, I'm a firm believer in being fair and equitable, and those skill sets or those values, I mean, they're life lessons. Everything we do on every day is education, right? We don't necessarily have to go to school formally to learn or grow or develop. And if you do have those skills, and you can tie those skills back to the requirements for that position, and then talk to them, you know, confidently, that's what I look for 100%. And like I said, if it's a good fit, it's a good fit. And we develop skills in all sorts of ways. There's no such thing as bad education, or a bad question, or a bad learning experience.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else from Heather or Jenny?
I have thoughts in my head. I'm just trying to think of how I want the words to come out of my mouth to say it in the way that I mean. And just piggybacking off of what Kyle said, I think any experience that you have, it's all a part of who the person you are today, right? Whether it's formal education or whatever types of jobs you've had or experience that you've had. And it's the skill sets, right? You've learned something from every experience in your life. So that's why I don't get too hung up on the technical experience in a resume. Like, yeah, we look for it, and it's nice when you see it and you're like, ooh, okay, yeah, they've got some experience here, and maybe it's the right type of experience, but it's not the be all end all for me. It's the other pieces. So, you know, if we have an applicant who's been a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 years raising kids, right? Like, how much, I mean, I don't know how many of you have kids, but the things you learn as a parent, and raising children, and the skill set that comes with that, like, if that doesn't prepare you for someone having a meltdown when they call the service desk on the phone, I don't know what will, right? Like, there's a lot to be said for the different experiences that we have in our lives. It's can you articulate that into how does that help you be qualified for this position? And can you speak to that in a way that tells me, yeah, okay, you've got what I'm looking for to fill this position. So I say, I said I never thought I'd be in digital services. And if we went back, what I thought I was going to do 30 years ago is not anywhere near what I am doing today. So, we ask 18-year-olds to decide what they want to be when they grow up, and then spend, $50,000 to $100,000 a year paying for a college education to be that thing. And guess what? They don't always want to be that thing. And so you make a path and you take that and turn it into the future that you want. So I wouldn't let that discourage you in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. All right, I think we need to end this here. I don't see more questions in chat. I do have one question for everyone here. I think I know the answer, but just checking. Do you have positions open right now, or do you anticipate that you will?
We currently do have, as of today, we have actually 3 positions that are posted on our level 1 service desk team. So we are currently in the hiring process.
So with that, I would encourage everyone to go to corewellhealth.org/careers, look at those positions and see if they are interesting to you and that your skills and your interest align. And that would be really helpful. And if they do, feel free to apply, or we invite you to apply. Anything else, Linus, from you?
Nothing else from me. I wanted to thank you all, Heather, Kyle, Jenny, and Sharon, for taking the time out of your day to come speak to us today. This was incredibly informative. And, in college, all of our students are gaining so many skills that they're eager to use. And it's really great to hear insight on the process that students can take to actually advertise their skills better. And it's really, really great to hear from you all who are on that side of it, what you're looking for. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so to all our Corewell panelists, I invite you to exit the Zoom now. Thank you again. And to all the students who are on Zoom and in person, feel free to stick around while I fiddle with the Zoom a little bit and share my screen. I'll share some announcements about what you can expect next from Future Tech Careers and things like that. So thank you again to our Corewell Health guests.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
I get a thumbs up from someone on the Zoom. Can you see the screen? Okay, awesome. So you can see the screen. So that was our Tech Job Applications 101 career conversation with Corewell Health. To give you a forecast of what you can expect next from Future Tech Careers, next week, Tuesday, in this same room and also on Zoom, we'll have Marilyn Addy coming in from LinkedIn to give a workshop on how you can use LinkedIn to build your network online. I'm sure you've all heard about how important it is to use LinkedIn, not only to find jobs, but to build your network. But if you're not sure where to start, Marilyn is going to be giving a workshop on how to create a LinkedIn for people who do not have a profile, as well as how to optimize your profile for people who already have LinkedIn. The RSVP QR code is on the screen. So feel free to scan that. And also, all of our event information is available on Raider Connect. So that's another resource for you to use to find all of our upcoming events, the Zoom information, and the RSVP forms to that. And aside from that, the last announcement is that if you are new to our Future Tech Careers group, I invite you to fill out the interest form on the left. The interest form is a way for you to give us the information we need to contact you about following events, whether that's updates about the program, upcoming events, networking opportunities, or anything in that realm. The interest form asks you for your email, your name, as well as some other information like the times you're available so that we can put on events that work at times for you. And then if you are someone who has attended a Future Tech event before and you've already filled out the interest form, I invite you to scan the QR code on the right, which is the event attendance form. This is a way for us to get feedback from you about what you liked about these events and what you didn't like, so that for future semesters, we can continue to host events that are valuable and offer meaningful information to you. With that, I will conclude this career conversation. Thank you so much to everyone who came today, who asked questions, who just came to listen. You can find it. So if you are on Zoom and you have any questions for me, feel free to stick around. I'll keep the Zoom open for a bit to answer any questions. And same goes to our in-person folks. If you have any questions for me or for Dave, feel free to stick around. But other than that, this marks the end of the event. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you next week, Tuesday.